The sun was already setting when Femi turned the steering wheel into the quiet, unfamiliar streets. Rachel glanced out of the window, her eyes tracing the rows of old bungalows that seemed to hunch against the dying lights. The air felt heavy, unnaturally still. Not a single child played on the road. No sounds of radios or generators. Only the soft hum of their car filled the silence. Ebony Street, Femi read aloud from the peeling signboard ahead, trying to lighten the mood. At least the name sounds familiar, he said. Rachel didn't laugh. She hugged her back closer. It's too quiet, Femi. I don't like it. He sighed. Babe, we've checked 7 houses in 2 weeks. The landlord is breathing down our necks every day. Let's just see this one. Who knows? It might be the miracle we need. Miracle. The word hung in the air like an echo that refused to fade. They turned into a narrow driveway, flanked by tall, dry hedges. At the end of it stood the house, large, cream-colored, with brown window frames and a deep veranda that wrapped around one side. It looked old, but sturdy, almost beautiful in a fallen way, and far too cheap for the price the agent had mentioned. The agent, a nervous-looking man named Mr. Ade, was already waiting at the gates. His eyes darted around like someone being followed. You are late, he said quickly with a sharp tone. Let's hurry up, I have another appointment. Femi smiled politely. There was traffic, sorry. So this is the place? Yes. Ade jingled the keys nervously. It's very nice, spacious. The owner traveled abroad and wants serious tenants only. Rachel frowned. Why has no one taken it? You said it's been vacant for almost a year. Ade froze for a moment. The air between them thickened. Then he forced a grin. You know Nigerians. They like flashy locations. This area is quiet, peaceful. Some people can't appreciate peace. His laugh was high-pitched, too quick, and it made Rachel uneasy. Inside the house was even bigger than it looked from the outside. The sitting room had tall ceilings and wide windows, though the curtains hung limp and dusty. A long hallway led to 3 bedrooms. The floorboards creaked under their steps, but something about the air felt heavy. Rachel felt it the moment she crossed the threshold. A dampness not from humidity, but from something that clung to her skin, like unseen eyes following her movements. Babe, come see the kitchen, Femi called. You'll like this one. She followed his voice, her heels clicking softly. The kitchen was surprisingly modern, though the walls were stained slightly darker near the corners. The ceiling fan turned slowly on its own. Her stomach clenched. Femi, she whispered, how is the fan moving? He looked up, frowned, then shrugged. Maybe the breeze. There's no breeze, she said. Ade clapped his hands once. Okay, you've seen it. Spacious, yes? 3 bedrooms, 1 store. You can even use the small room in the back as an office. Price, very good. 350,000 naira a year only. Rachel's eyes widened. That is less than half of what we pay now. Exactly, Femi exclaimed, excitement flashing in his eyes. And the house is bigger. Rachel, this is perfect. She bit her lip. Too perfect. Ade's smile faltered for a second. If you want it, pay fast. Another client is interested, he lied. Femi didn't hesitate. He was desperate to leave their old apartment, where their landlord shouted every week, where the walls leaked and the rent choked them. This house felt like an escape. Even Rachel, though uneasy, was too tired to argue. So they paid right there. The first few days after they moved in were blissful. For the first time in months, there was no banging on their door at midnight. No landlord demanding light bill or security money. The compound was theirs alone, surrounded by tall hedges that cut them off from the rest of the neighborhood. Rachel unpacked boxes in the spacious living room, humming softly as the sound of Femi's laughter drifted from outside. He was fixing the satellite dish, his voice carrying through the open window. Everything felt almost normal, but then little things began to happen. The first was on the 3rd night. Rachel woke up to the sound of footsteps, slow, deliberate, like someone walking barefoot on the tiled floor. She nudged Femi beside her. "Do you hear that?" He grumbled, half asleep. "Probably a rat, babe. Go back to sleep." She tried, but the footsteps moved closer to their door, paused, then turned back down the hallway. The next morning, she searched the entire house. No sign of rats, no footprints. 2 nights later, she woke up again, this time around to the sound of someone whispering faintly. It came from the kitchen. The words were low, distorted, almost like a radio station struggling for signal. She crept out of bed, heart pounding, and walked to the kitchen door. The whispering stopped. When she turned on the light, the fridge door was wide open. "Femi," she called, voice trembling. He came out seconds later, rubbing his eyes. "What's wrong?" She pointed at the fridge. "Did you come here?" "No," he frowned. "You probably left it open." Rachel wanted to argue, but the look in his tired eyes made her swallow it. "Maybe." They brushed it off, but after that night, Rachel couldn't shake the feeling that the house listened. Every sound echoed too long. Every silence felt like it had depth. One morning, a knock came at the gates. Rachel peered through the curtain. A woman stood outside, elderly in a faded wrapper. Her eyes sharp but kind. "Good morning," Rachel greeted. "Good morning, my daughter." The woman replied softly. "I live across the fence. I saw new people moving. You must be the new tenants." Rachel smiled. "Yes, I am Rachel, my husband Femi." The woman nodded slowly. You are brave to live here." Rachel frowned. "Sorry?" "Nothing," the woman said quickly, forcing a smile. "Welcome to Ebony Street. If you ever need anything, my house is just behind." She pointed vaguely towards the hedges. "Be careful at night. The dogs in this area are restless." She left before Rachel could ask more. When Femi came home that evening, Rachel told him about the strange comments. "Babe," he chuckled, "it's just old people's talk. Maybe some superstition. You know how neighbors gossip about houses." Rachel smiled weakly. "Yeah, maybe." But that night, she woke again to the sound of the back door creaking open, slowly, painfully. She froze. Then came a faint dragging sound, something scraping against the kitchen floor. She reached for Femi, but he was already awake, eyes wide in the dark. "You heard it too?" he whispered. They both sat still, listening. The dragging stopped. Then a soft knock echoed. Once, twice. On the bedroom wall behind their bed. Rachel clutched Femi's arms. "That came from inside," she hissed. He didn't answer. He stood up, grabbed the torchlight and opened the door. The corridor was empty, but on the floor near the kitchen, something small glistened under the lights, a rusty key. None of them had seen it before. By the end of the first week, things escalated. Femi began having strange dreams, vivid ones. In them, he was walking through the house, but the walls were wet, pulsating like living skin, and a man's voice whispered his name repeatedly. "Femi, Femi, leave now." Each time he woke up drenched in sweat, he would tell himself it was stress. But one afternoon, while Rachel was cooking, she noticed something odd. The spice jars on the kitchen counter had rearranged themselves. She was sure she had lined them up by color, but now they spelled something faint in the dust across the surface. "Stay." She blinked, heart hammering. "Femi," she called out. He was running. "What?" "Look," she said, pointing. But when he looked, the word was missing. He frowned. "Babe, you are just tired. Rest more." She nodded weakly, but deep down she knew. She hadn't imagined it. That evening, the old neighbor returned. She stood outside, clutching a small Bible. "My daughter," she called softly, "don't stay too long. That house has memories. It doesn't like new people." Rachel's skin crawled. "What do you mean?" But before the woman could answer, Femi appeared beside her, irritated. "Mama, I beg, we're fine. Please don't scare my wife." The woman looked at him, long and hard. Then she whispered, "You will understand soon," and walked away. That night, the lights began to flicker. Every single bulb dimmed until the house was swallowed in a low orange glow. From the living room came a faint hum, the same kind of murmur Rachel had heard weeks ago. And then a shadow moved across the hallway. The shadow that glided across the hallway wasn't shaped like a person. It was too long, too fluid, like liquid darkness stretching itself along the wall. Femi froze mid-step, the torch trembling in his hand. Rachel stood behind him, gripping his arm so tightly her nails dug into his skin. "Femi, what is that?" she whispered. He didn't answer. He shone the torch directly at it, and the beam passed through it, revealing only the wall. But as they turned to each other, something knocked from inside the wall itself. 3 heavy thuds. Rachel screamed. Femi grabbed her and ran for the bedroom, slamming the door shut. They pressed against it, breathing hard. "Maybe it's rats," Femi gasped finally, voice shaking. Rachel turned to him sharply. "Rats? Rats don't knock on walls." That night they didn't sleep. Every hour there was another sound. Faint dragging, a sigh, the creak of unseen footsteps pacing the hall. Morning came pale and strong. Rachel stepped outside into the compound and saw muddy footprints leading from the back door to the hedge. She followed them until they ended abruptly halfway across the yard. No sign of who or what had made them. She didn't tell Femi. He had been growing pale and withdrawn, staring off into space as if listening to something she couldn't hear. The strange occurrences that took place in their new home began taking a toll on her. She couldn't bear it any longer and needed to find answers. She went to her neighbor's house one afternoon, knowing fully well that the elderly woman knew what was happening in their home. The woman invited her inside hastily and shut the door, as if trying to hide from somebody. "Mama," she began, "please help us. I know you are aware of what is happening in that house. Please, what can we do?" The woman looked at Rachel for a long time and sighed. "That house is cursed. Why do you think it was rented to you at a giveaway price? Didn't you suspect a foul play?" Rachel's heart began to pound. The woman narrated the entire story of the house to Rachel. She told Rachel that she was still a child when the evil occurred, but despite that, she could never forget it. Ebony Street was once a bubbly place with children playing all around. The family that originally owned the house were once a peaceful and loving one. Not until one day, one of their sons, who had returned from an unknown journey, started acting out of character. Some said he did money ritual, which backfired. Others said he was possessed by some evil spirits. He began threatening and terrorizing the whole street, including his family. Then one fateful night, the street was quiet as usual. All of a sudden, screams started coming from the house. After a while, it was dead silent again, like nothing had happened. The neighbors, out of fear, alerted the police, thinking it was the usual disturbance of the possessed boy. But the police, on getting to the house, found out that the boy had wiped out his entire family in cold blood. When the police saw him, he then killed himself too. The house was eventually cleaned up like nothing happened. The event shocked the entire neighborhood. Many even moved out of the neighborhood. That was when the street got very quiet and seemed like it was abandoned. After a few years, the house was bought and the new owner began renting it out. Every family or person that moved into the house never made it out alive, as it was said that the spirit of the boy still lived in the house. And the house always demanded blood. It was said that the spirit of the boy kept taking lives of whoever lived there. The story ran a chill down Rachel's spine. The old woman was a child when this happened, and she experienced it all firsthand. She had warned the previous families that rented the house, but they paid her no mind till it was too late. Rachel began to panic. "So my husband and I are never making it out alive." The woman asked her how often they prayed, and she confessed that they had not prayed since they entered the house. The old woman shook her head. "Take this." She handed her a small bottle of anointing oil and whispered, "It only obeys courage. Don't run in fear. Stand and speak life into it. That's how you win. By nightfall, Femi and Rachel were ready. They had packed only what they could carry: clothes, documents, the small bottle of anointing oil the old woman had given them, and a Bible. Everything else could rot in that house. But as darkness settled, the air changed again. Thick, electric, almost humming with anger. Rachel stood in the center of the living room, clutching the oil. "Femi, whatever happens, don't let go of me," she whispered. He nodded. "We are in this together." The lights flickered once, twice, then flared into a deep orange glow that made the walls look like they were bleeding. The house groaned, the kind of groan that comes from something ancient and alive. Then the floorboards trembled. From the corridor came a shadow, tall, formless, moving with fluid rage. Its voice filled the house, low and guttural. "You belong here now." Rachel's knees buckled, but Femi caught her. "No," he shouted, his voice cracking. "We don't belong to you." The shadow moved closer, splitting into several forms, faint outlines of faces, distorted, screaming silently in agony. Rachel began to shake uncontrollably. "It's the people, the ones that lived here before." The air grew cold enough to sting their skin. Then, as if triggered by their fear, every door in the house began to slam, one after the other. "Femi," Rachel cried. "The oil!" He snatched the bottle, uncapped it with trembling hands, and splashed some across the floor. The moment the oil hit, the shadow screamed, not loud but deep, vibrating through their bones. Femi felt something inside him snap, the instinct to survive overriding everything else. He began praying violently. Rachel joined him too. They prayed and prayed for a long time. He then grabbed Rachel's hands. "We are leaving now." They ran towards the main door, shouting as they went, their voices echoing off the trembling walls. "Let us go," Femi roared. "We are not yours." The door didn't move. They tried opening, but the door didn't budge. They tried and tried, but the evil in the house didn't let them leave. They were terrified as they had never seen anything like this. They intensified their prayers, casting and binding out every evil. Rachel, through tears, smeared oil on the doorknob, praying under her breath. "We are covered. We are not afraid of you. You can't have us." For a moment, nothing happened. Then the door shuddered once, twice, and flung open, so hard it nearly tore off its hinges. Cold air rushed out like an exhale. They ran out of the compound, down the narrow street barefoot and breathless, until they reached the house of the old woman. She was already outside, holding a lantern. "Quickly," she shouted, "step into the light." The moment they crossed her threshold, the air shifted. The sound behind them, the strange humming, stopped. The silence that followed was deafening. Rachel collapsed to the ground, sobbing. Femi fell beside her, gasping for breath. The old woman stood over them, murmuring softly, "You are free now, but the house will call again for someone else. Ebony Street never stays empty for long." It took months before they felt normal again. They moved far away to a smaller apartment in the busy part of town. No hedges, no eerie silence, just traffic, laughter, and life. Rachel started therapy. Femi changed jobs. They took their prayer life seriously now. Slowly, they learned to sleep without keeping the lights on. Yet sometimes, late at night, when the wind brushed against their windows, Rachel would sit up, heart pounding, convinced she heard something. The faint hum of that house breathing in the dark. She would reach for Femi's hand and whisper, "We made it, right?" And he would squeeze her fingers and say, "We did, babe. We are still here." But deep down, both of them knew some places don't forget so easily. And somewhere far away on that lonely street, the house on Ebony Lane waited, quiet, patient, and hungry. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Please don't forget to give it a big thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and turn on your post notification to get notified when next I post a new video. Bye!